As we sit here tonight, we call upon the sacred light of Source, divine masculine, and the divine feminine. We call upon our spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, galactic guides and light beings, ancestors, nature spirits, and animal guides, and all other beings of the highest light and vibration who would like to join us in our journey tonight. We call upon Archangel Michael, Narasimha, and Hanuman to surround us in divine protection as we open the sacred space. We also call upon Thoth to open the gates to divine knowledge and wisdom. Spirit guides, we ask tonight for your assistance and your guidance to help us with the shifts that are happening in our lives right now and for the collective, that you help us to merge these timelines in the most efficient manner that is for our highest good. Please help us to also retrieve any soul fragments that are floating in the ether from past lives, future lives, parallel lives, and anything else to bring us back to our wholeness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, the sacred circle is now open. Namaste.
I'm seeing a shelf in like some sort of like curio cabinet or display cabinet, and it's glass. Like I feel like the whole cabinet is like glass shelves, glass doors and windows, and I'm seeing tiny little statues made out of like crystals, but they're animals. The kind that like you're seeing in places like cart stores and things like that. They're maybe 2 or 3 inches tall at the most. I can definitely see like a bear, the swan. I can't really make like the other animals out, but there are a whole bunch of animals on the shelf, and sometimes like even though they're clear crystal, like the light kind of catches them, and they have like prismatic sort of colors to them. And I can see the shelf almost like as if I'm in the cabinet on the shelf. It's like I'm tiny too, but maybe a little bigger than the statues. And I can see from the perspective of being in there with them. So I'm either whatever creature's in there or like I'm seeing through their eyes. I feel like even though I'm in this shelf, at the same time I can see, I don't know if this is like a memory or like maybe this is a dream I had actually a few nights ago. It's really weird. I feel like I can't quite remember. I feel like we're both sitting on this sort of like, it's really sand, but it's really fine sand. And there's an ocean nearby, but it's not like oceans here on Earth because the water is like very calm. And even the way the waves are rolling up are really like, almost like the way like a lake laughs, not an ocean. But the ocean is kind of this like pinkish color. And even though we're sitting on the sand and there's the ocean, it's very like close to the sky. Like the vision is mostly sky, and the sky is this kind of pinkish color. And I can see the moon that is like looks like a round chunk of rose quartz in the sky. This is definitely like not Earth. This feels like another place. It's like pink and kind of white and very peaceful and quiet, and everything just feels like connected. I almost kind of feel as if like the way to get there is like going through one of these little crystal statues. It feels like this little like crystal is like a way to get somewhere is through the crystal. And it's funny because as the moon reminds me of this piece of rose quartz I have. I can see a man's face. It's kind of like a small narrow face, and he has black hair and a mustache, but the mustache is really thin, and it kind of comes to this sort of light little like turn up sort of curling point, and he has a little bit of goatee, and he kind of has like bangs or something where his hair comes down and almost like does a little flip to it, like by his ears. And I feel like he has this like metal helmet that he wears. It's like a cross between a hat and a helmet. And he also, like, I'm seeing that he has armor that he wears. This is like armor thing that goes over the clothing. It kind of reminds me of like a very conquistador sort of look. I feel like that's he was part of I don't know if he's Spanish or Portuguese or something like that, but his skin has a little bit of a kind of olive complexion to it. Like an arm and like connection to a ship, and I'm feeling like I don't think he enjoyed being at sea. I feel like he's really thankful when they hit land. He feels kind of brave and kind of fearless and very curious. There's something about him too carrying a sword. I don't think he was not in charge of the expedition, but he might have been like a right-hand man to the guy that was in charge. And I'm getting this feeling like he feels like charismatic, like I like him, but also like know that he's kind of like he just also feels like he's kind of an asshole too.
So I was seeing this tunnel of white light, and I felt it first. I heard it and I felt it first. And then I saw this white light, and I was hearing like, it's funny because I have this song in my head, this like medicine chant that I've been listening to on repeat. That was kind of in the background, but it was somehow going along with what I was hearing, and it was kind of like this blowing sound, like and so I was hearing that, and then but you know how like when it's really cold and you, like, say you're in a car or something or by a window and someone blows their breath on the window and then like writes something, you know? Mm-hmm. That's kind of like, so I was hearing the sound of someone blowing like that, and then I was feeling the cold, this cold air. It was ice cold. Like I wasn't seeing ice, but I was feeling the icy coldness of this. And I was going down this white tunnel, and then all of a sudden, it was like I was seeing this other scene where I'm under this tree in a park, and somewhere in the suburbs, but I feel like, I don't know how this happened, but I feel like I drowned. And you know how someone comes, you know, if you drown and someone comes and does like CPR basically, you know, and like blows into your mouth and like pumps your heart. I felt like I don't see anyone else around me, so I don't think anyone did this. I feel like this is kind of that soul retrieval part of it. I feel like maybe it wasn't so much it could be a physical thing, but I definitely think it's more of a spiritual bringing back to life kind of thing. But I feel like it kind of coincides, like the wind, you know, and someone blowing into your mouth, and like I'm just feeling, especially with the tunnel white light, like somehow coming back into consciousness in this. But well, it's kind of all I'm seeing right now. Like I said, where I kind of quote unquote woke up is in the suburbs, and I am in this park, and I can see, like, it's nighttime. I can see houses with like the lights on, you know, I can see like this yellow glow from the windows. And what's interesting is like, I'm feeling this icy coldness of this breath, but the environment that I'm in this park is like in the summertime. Like it's definitely not cold at all. I could say spring or summer. So it's interesting that this feeling of cold came in. But I feel like that's somehow tied to this rebirth or bringing back to life, or I don't know. And now I'm seeing, it's interesting, right above me, like as my perspective is in the park, right above me, all of a sudden I was seeing this like glistening disc of light. And as I looked up, I'm seeing like streams of lights, and there are multiple like quote unquote UFOs or whatever, galactic ships. Maybe like 4, and they're all shining this light down, almost like a spotlight, like a searchlight. I love when our guides have a sense of humor. I ask them, "What are you doing with your light?" And they say, "We're helping you find parts of yourself."
What was really curious about what you just said? I really resonate with what you're saying about the cold, but like right as you were starting to talk, I was feeling cold, so I got up and I turned the air conditioner off. Weird,
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and the funny, oh sorry, I was just gonna say the funny thing is I'm not cold. Like physically, I was just in that moment. I was feeling it. Go ahead.
I was just feeling, and I think I had this thought, that sometimes like when we're like working through like humps or roadblocks that we get kind of stuck on, and we're about to kind of like leave it, and things start to that feeling of picking up and something about to happen. It's almost like too, as much as we know something's happening and coming, we also, there's a feeling of being thawed out a little bit too. Like you have to allow yourself to kind of come to either back to life or come to life in a certain way, so it's like that feels connected somehow, like as you were talking, I felt like I was seeing this conquistador man again, but much older, and almost like a cross between being older, as in an old man, and a cross between like his something in his features kind of returning, becoming more skeletal. Like he was losing his I guess, qualities that made him like humane or um I feel like I can kind of hear this sort of like, I think it's like the wind or something, but I also feel like I can see these like long metal tubes that at first I thought they were coming out of the ground, but they're like maybe like 10 or 20 feet above the ground. I think it was just like perspective that made them look like they were connected. And I feel like it plays this sort of sound or like air, but also does create some kind of melody depending upon how the wind's going.
So all of a sudden I heard someone whistling from my right side, and they were like, "Hey, go over here." Oh, so, and then I was hearing and seeing this like crackling and bubbles bursting. It was like little firecrackers, and like, you know, if you take bubble wrap and you just like squeeze it, you just hear all the cracks. It was kind of like that. And so then I looked over and I saw like this man and this woman, and I'm still kind of getting a download on what they look like, but definitely medieval. And they brought me into this tower in a castle. And as I went with them on this journey, I kind of said to them, "This feels like a trap." And they said, "That's because it is." But I didn't have any fear going into it. I was just like, okay, let's see what happens. And then there's a woman. I'm in this tower that's circular, and it feels like a very like the top of the tower almost. It might not be the only tower in this castle, but definitely one of them. And the woman is standing near the window, and there's a man who's he has a knife pointed like at my throat, and he's holding me back against this wall that's next to a fireplace. And the woman is looking out the window, and I can hear and feel and see someone on a horse, more than one person. There's a few people on horses coming to the castle, and I feel like they're here to rescue me. And I feel like it's nighttime. It's darker in the room than it is outside. So it's like, it might not quite be nighttime, maybe like dusk or something. But this feels like the castle that I've been journeying to in recent journeys, because there's snow outside. There's a lot of snow. And I feel like this is definitely a past life, and I have to ask them. I'm going to keep going with it, but I wanted to share for now. But there's someone who came on the horse and has come into the room. They were pounding on the door, and then they came in. And I'm noticing there's something around his neck. It's almost like a dog tag that you would see like from military, that the military, wear around their neck. Some kind of, identification or something. But I feel like it's important because it's really standing out. And it's kind of hanging over to the left side. It's almost like it's pulling towards me, and Spirit is like wanting me to see who this is. So that's all for now, but I'll keep going with it and see what they share.
I can see this tower. That's really crazy. I just got a text message. Shit, that connects. Okay, I'm just really weird moment right now. I can see this tower, and as I'm about to say that, I can see the tower, and I'm about to say, I see how high up it is. It's like really high up. And I get a message that said something about a rope for climbing. It's really bizarre. I just got a series of poems sent to me. Anyway, I can see this tower so clearly. You're inside, but I'm outside of it. And I can hear the wind. I can hear the ocean. And was this tower always by the ocean? Because it is now. And
not that I remember.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. I feel as if like there's something happening in the way I'm seeing like the geography, where everything is readjusted, like everything's closer than it really is or something. But I can see these sort of metal tubes, and again, they're not touching the ground, but they're near there, and the wind is going through them. And I feel like everything you were talking about is getting filtered through these tubes and this sort of interesting harmonics, or it's really weird. It's like I'm seeing the word. It's like it's not harmonica, but it's like they're saying something about the harmonics of sound going through these tubes. And where the sound will passes through them is something about like this is a way that connects events and times and places and things like that. It's something connected with the wind or something. And they're saying something about the wind and something about you being near the window in the tower of this, that the sound of the wind up there, the energy of the wind, that whatever happened in that tower with the knife and all of that, and the was somehow like went out the window. Like part of that event or part of what happened in those moments, that it's as if it's been floating around like in the wind, that it's belonged to the wind for a really long time. And it's just been like going around the earth on the wind. It's like it hasn't ever landed anywhere. It's almost as if all of these energies or these emotions or things that are connected to that moment have just been endlessly riding the wind. I don't know why this odd thought is so comforting to me. This sort of, that it's just been like kind of waiting for a time to, be taken out of circulation or something. I don't know, or returned. I feel like it needs to kind of come back to you. And there was something when you were speaking that, like, I forget what you said about what it was exactly, but the gist of it was that, like, some things, like, just have to unfold. Like, they have to happen. Like that moment, and whatever like led up to it, like I think this is connected too with the swords and the daggers too, about that there's just like this sharp moment had to happen. It feels like, and it belongs to the sort of wind that's in this higher atmosphere that's like cold and like it's up there just like circulating, and it doesn't like, it's been relentless, and I feel like it's ready to be like kind of filtered out through these like strange metal tubes and harmonized and kind of like the energy of it's ready to be recycled into something else or transformed into something else.
So there's a few very interesting things about what you're saying. The first one is going to sound really ridiculous, and I know I've mentioned this to you before, and I never really knew why, but I feel like this is the thing. But for whatever reason, I really, really, really dislike the wind. I never knew why. It's just so irritating to me. Every time it's windy, like I'm trying to adopt your philosophy of like letting the wind clear, but like the wind has always triggered me for a very unknown reason, and I feel like this might be it.
Bingo. Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, Jacqueline, like, this is absolutely absurd. Like, why are you letting the wind make you so angry? And yeah, I really feel that this is it. And something else that's curious is that since we opened, my throat chakra has been really like physically tight. And I remember when we journeyed last time to the castle, that Spirit was also telling me to sing. And I feel like somehow these pipes and the word you're using, like harmonizing, is alluding to like the fact that singing will help me clear this energy in a way. Because I feel like somehow these metal pipes are almost like representing like this like non-physical pipe, like literally pipes in your throat. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I really, really, really resonate with the idea of this energy floating around in the wind. And I do think, like, I think you said it, but I really feel that the altitude here has something to do with it. Like the wind being almost different up in this tower, or surrounding the tower. But yeah, I do feel it's been floating around and needs to be cleared, or come full circle somehow.
Yeah, did we talk once about you singing outside in the wind? Or outside, like
outside, yeah.
Yeah. Almost like there's this feeling of like calling it back to you, you know? I mean, it's already coming back to you here in the realization and the remembrance of it, you know, but it's almost like it's saying, like, I feel like when you to sing, it's this sort of like release of the voice, right? But it's also like as you're singing, you're breathing something in, so it almost feels like the singing is the clearing of it, intake, you know, that cycle there, that sort of like and it feels like by doing that, it's like a sort of birthing of something else. I'm also feeling like there's something too about that, the tower, like I almost feel like that something happened where and maybe this is the timeline shifting or things merging or the different dimensions coming together, but as if the tower got stretched out, like it grew. And it's almost like there's something about the elevation where the wind is, where it feels like there's like this way to access other points of like time and reality, and you know, and I almost feel like there's something interesting about this. Is I always thought when you spoke of the castle and we spoke of it and it came forward, I always thought of it as a past thing, but now it's feeling more like, of course, everything, you know, the concept of time is, you know, like what we say the past, but that's not really what is the truth exactly. But this feels as if like it may have an element of dimensionality to it, like it's like another dimensional thing more than it belongs to our concept of the past. It almost feels like this point of land, like that spot we were sitting on this other planet where the sky and the sand and the ocean were so close together in this weird way. It almost feels like the tower and the sea and the woods around it, like something's happened where like space is both grows and shrinks, like like there almost is no space between anything. And I feel like that's like a dimensional shift or a dimensional awareness is for us to really maybe understand this. We always talk about time and places as being the shift, but there's something with space too here and our perception of it, where when we start to realize that we are multidimensional beings living at the same time, we realize that part of our oneness is that the distinctions of things like time also are the distinctions of things like space, where they also don't exist really, because everything's all at once in one place. And and I feel like as I'm saying this, I'm seeing something in my own head that looks almost like this funhouse mirror or this sort of prismatic thing where everything's like flattening out into one. Like I feel like something in my head right now and the way I think about things while I put things together is shifting. Just by saying that, it's a really unique awareness of how the thoughts we have and the words we speak can be altered as we have a new awareness of them or something. I'm truly not aware of what I just said on a really real level. I feel like I need to digest this. I
understand what you're trying to say. I also need to listen to it again and really absorb that information, but it feels right for sure.
And maybe this feeling I'm having where I can say I know exactly what I'm saying and I don't know what I'm saying at the same time. It feels like maybe that's like kind of the bit of the point. Is surrendering into this, that the more we realize we know, the more we also realize we don't know. And I'm also having this incredible moment where I'm saying that space isn't a real thing. I'm also feeling this real presence of an immense amount of space and possibility, and like I can truly choose right now the direction I want to move forward in. This I feel like a large sense of possibility for some reason. All of a sudden, I feel like instantly somewhere else, and I'm seeing like I'm in the catacombs of a church or maybe a monastery.
Wow.
Okay. Oh wow! What?
Just very synchronistic. Keep going. I'll tell you after.
Okay. No, this is definitely a monastery that has a church in it, or a um living kind of area attached where there's like there's a garden and a spot with trees where they grow herbs, and living quarters, like a long room for like eating with these really long tables. And it's reminding me of this monastery that I went to um in Lima.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'm actually there, maybe. But this conquistador, or this person I saw earlier, I think is buried in this place that I'm seeing. I just don't know if it was the same place I went to. I remember feeling really affected in the catacombs of this place. Like, as soon as I went downstairs, the energy shifted, and I just felt this immense amount of pressure, not in a bad way, but just, and then as soon as we came up from being down there, I felt better, I haven't thought about this in years. And I still have this sense of a lot of openness and possibility, and but I feel like I'm seeing something, um, and I'm seeing and feeling my own disconnected to this man somehow, and possibly this is me, because I feel really connected to his sadness at the realization of some of the things that he did. And I felt like he died with a sense of really sorrow for some of the decisions he made, you know?
Mm.
And it's weird, it's not that I feel that sorrow necessarily, but in a way that I can't explain, I feel like a sense of forgiveness for him. I'm not really sure where this is coming from or why. It's really interesting. I'm down in the catacombs, and I can see the sort of like narrow door that you need to walk through to take the stairs up. And they have this like little wrought iron handle they put there. But now I'm also seeing an elevator, which was not there. This elevator is here in the journey, but not in real life. And it's a metal elevator, and I can see it opening, and I am feeling the feeling of having gotten in it and going up. But it feels as if the elevator is like going up much further than just like one or two floors up that you would need to take it to get out. And it's interesting because I can hear almost at the same time I think a plane just flew by, which is really bizarre. Um, I can hear some sort of like really hollow metal sort of echoey sound as I'm going up in this elevator. And there's this weird pressure around my third eye and my eye. Like my sinuses are draining really fast. But the elevator feels connected to a ship that is right outside of the Earth's like where the sky ends and space begins. And when you come out of the elevator, you're like in the ship. But I also like I know that's where the elevator went, and I know the ship's there, but like I'm not on it. Like I just know that's where the elevator went. I feel like maybe he took it up. And even though I'm not on it, I feel this it's not so much that I'm seeing it, but I feel like I'm being told that there's a sort of or I'm remembering something I've being reminded of something I've seen before where there's these long sort of pod like bed table things that can lay on and something comes over you and it's a sort of chamber or place that you can lay for your like energetic body to be um I guess like healed or recharged or cleansed or allowed to rejuvenate its energy or something.
So what I'm seeing is just wild synchronicity with what you're seeing. So before you started talking, I was sitting here and kind of feeling into what I was getting, and it was like all of a sudden there was this skeleton covered in cobwebs, like right in my face, and kind of almost like a weird scary movie. It was kind of like moving around, and I want to say something really quick about the what I'm noticing tonight is like earlier when I saw the castle scene, I was seeing that on my right side, very distinctly on my right side. And this I'm seeing very distinctly on my left side. So I just wanted to mention that. With the receiving and the right is the receiving, the left is the clearing. So anyway, so I was seeing this male skeleton floating around on my left side, and then I followed it, and all of a sudden this stairway down opened into my vision, and it was covered in cobwebs, and I started walking down, and I realized it was leading me into a catacomb or a tomb.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, but what I found interesting is when I felt into it, because I specifically called on Thoth tonight for a reason. And when you read the Emerald Tablet, he speaks of these tombs that are like journeys of the soul. And I feel like this is like I'm here with him, like he's guiding me on this journey right now. And I was going down these stairs, and I could literally hear like the crunching of bones of other people or other versions of myself, maybe, that have walked this path. And in the Emerald Tablet, he spoke of like this chamber where you would go basically for judgment, and that's kind of where I feel like I'm being led. And so I was walking down the stairs, and then all of a sudden, the stairs like fell off and disappeared, and there was just this black hole. And I was really scared to even drop down into it, because to get to the other side was like I had to drop into it. And I feel like that's very metaphorical from him. But anyway, I finally did. And it wasn't as deep as I thought. And I ended up falling into a puddle of water. And then what's curious is where I would have kept walking, like the other side of this catacomb, the ground started rising. And it became this like large cliff of rock. But before it rose, I could see, kind of in my vision, but also psychic vision, like I could see where he was taking me, and it was into this chamber that's described in the book. And it's essentially like he describes it as like this can't think of a better word right now, coffin that you go into, not because you died, but to be, it's like an initiation of some sort. But anyway, as I started the journey, it was not dark, but it was not bright, like light or anything. But as the cliff started to rise, I saw that the room was illuminated brightly, very, very brightly, with this like yellow light. And so anyway, I went down into this black hole, landed in a puddle. I was seeing the rising of this other side, and I was able to get up in time. Like I climbed the rock and I got onto the top of it. And what's really interesting is that as you were speaking of the elevator, I kid you not, I literally saw out of nowhere this metal, black metal, very simple elevator, like a mining elevator, come down on the left side of the scene, open up, spit out a version of myself, and disappeared. And this version of myself looked at me sitting on the top of the rock and just like fell to the ground and vanished. And then I noticed that the rock was still rising and that this chamber was closing, the chamber with the light. And so then I kind of dove in head first. And as I dove in, I heard Thoth say to me, "It's okay, you made it." And then I got on top of this slab of rock and on my back. And it was like the rock was like coal, like burning coal, but it was just a slab of rock, and it burned my back, and I screamed really loud, and as I did so, I astral projected, and that's as far as I got. But now that I'm speaking of it, it's continuing. So, I'm seeing now this like priest hovering over me in the chamber, and the bright light that was there is kind of subsiding. It's kind of fading a little bit, and I'm seeing this like very, very traditional like Catholic priest in all the robes. And he's swinging this metal container of incense all over my body, clearing. And it feels very, like I said, very synchronistic and coincidental that you were talking about healing chamber, because I feel like that's what's happening right now.
It's really wild that we were both brought to the same place. Basically, I mean, our versions of the same place, the catacombs and the it's amazing to the connection with what was in the Emerald Tablet as well.
As I'm seeing, like, they're still showing me something about this chamber, and as this priest is like doing his incense clearing, Thoth is like at my head, and he's doing something with the light around my head. Infusing it somehow with light, with more light.
As you were saying, he's infusing it with more light. I'm like hearing like light upon light upon light, like just the act of just continuing to put light on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Almost feels like a universal declaration or decree of like how anything can be handled, you know? Keep putting light on it. It's so interesting too because we're nestled between two supermoons in a 1 month period of August. One which was last night, so it's still technically a full moon tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And the moon, like full moons are always about light, like you know, bringing things to light.
I don't know about you, but like this whole journey, I'm feeling very like antsy. I cannot sit still. Like, oh, um,
I wonder if that's connected to like the energy of the wind a little bit or something.
yeah. I feel like too, it's just like when we set this intention to do this soul retrieval, I feel like the energy is really intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
And I feel like some of the intentions we made, about I think that the retrieval, something about the retrieval is playing out here, and the beginning of the merging, but I feel like the merging is a little bit of an ongoing process, a little bit. I feel like it's going to kind of play out over the next few days, the shifting of it. I'm getting this really, I don't have the same antsiness you do, but I've been getting ever since it started where it's on the right side of my face, from my third eye to above my eyebrow and forehead, all the way down my right nostril. It feels like it's opening and draining, but it also feels kind of tight. Almost borderline painful. And I haven't had any issues today with any of these feelings. So whatever this is connected to what's happening. I can still feel the energy of everything, but I feel like I'm not in the journey any longer.
Man.
How about you?
No. I was actually just thinking to myself, oh, I don't feel that antsy anymore. Like it just stopped all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm back in my body.
Okay. I'm gonna close then.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Spirit, for everything that you've shared with us and shown us. Thank you for the realizations and the integrations of the lives that are connected to what we saw. Thank you to the wind, and thank you to Thoth for coming forward. Thank you to the versions of ourselves, and to all of the elements that joined us in this journey this evening. Thank you for the retrievals and the beginning of our internal integration of all of ourselves together. We are deeply thankful. We ask that in the coming days that this integration continues in the most gentle, profound way possible. And that as we're integrating the messages and everything around the retrieval, that we be filled with light and love and support from us, you Spirit. We are that we want love to replenish anything that may have been removed or released, so we can continue to move forward in light and in love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, the sacred circle is closed.
As we sit here tonight, we call upon the sacred light of Source, divine masculine.
I'm seeing a shelf in some sort of curio cabinet or display cabinet, and it's glass. I feel like the whole cabinet is glass shelves, glass doors and windows, and I'm seeing tiny little statues made out of crystals, but they're animals. The kind that you see in places like cart stores and things like that. They're maybe 2 or 3 inches tall at the most.